It's really tough to
Yeah.
do the back.
Hey, I want to talk about immigration stuff.
Oh, that'd be good too.
Yeah. Everything is terrible. And I was gone for the last couple of weeks, and it was a terrible time to be gone because things just sort of seemed to be falling apart. One of the stories that was reported but maybe kind of misunderstood is that Jeff Sessions is certifying these appellate cases to himself so that he can rewrite immigration laws literally by himself. And one of those cases that he decided was this case about whether or not judges can, as a matter of discretion, administratively close removal proceedings. And previously, what the law was, or what the Board of Immigration Appeals had decided, is that even if ICE opposed closing a case, this is somebody who's in removal proceedings but maybe has some other way to get papers, and they've got a pending application with another part of the government, or maybe their kid has cancer or whatever. There's some sort of favorable factor in the case. The judge, what the Board of Immigration Appeals said is that the judge could close the case even if ICE was opposed to the closure of the case. And he did away with that decision the other day. It was in a case of a minor child who didn't show up for court, and the judge decided rather than order them deported, he was going to just close the case, assuming that someday this kid would grow up. He'd hire a lawyer. He'd, figure out, oh, I've got this old pending removal case and I need to get it reopened or whatever. And so the child was totally unrepresented, and DHS opposed. Anyways, the point is, I know I'm kind of rambling, but the point is, this is ruining lives. I have actually, when that decision was handed down, a pending motion to admin close for somebody who was recently picked up because ICE was running license plates in a parking lot and found out this guy was born in Mexico. That's how he came into removal proceedings, and he can get papers through his wife, but the difference between having the case closed or not closed is about 2 years in Mexico. So because this decision was handed down, this guy now has to go to Mexico for probably around 2 years, while his wife, who has all kinds of health complications, and their children presumably go on welfare or move in with her parents, or make these really tough life choices, and for no reason other than what really is turning out to be an effort to ethnically cleanse the country.
Yeah.
And that sounds maybe like hyperbole to some people, but when you look at the totality of the decisions and the things that are happening to end DACA, to end TPS for not just one country or two countries, but all the countries with brown people, basically, they're just, this is exactly what these think tanks like CIS and FAIR have been wanting to do for decades, and they're getting their way. One thing that a lot of people are pointing out, that Obama was really bad, and that's totally true. The best possible reading of Obama's actions on immigration is he was trying to establish his bona fides,
right,
so that they could pass immigration reform. And I think that this has to be a lesson to progressives that there's no point in pursuing some sort of middle ground or trying to create goodwill by doing the right's bidding in the hope that they'll come around and meet you halfway or something like that. That's just not going to happen. And so, I really wish that we could coalesce around some sort of actual proposal. You did an interview a few weeks ago about with somebody about how there's no left foreign policy.
Yes.
And I think that the same is true on immigration.
That was actually Aziz Rana who Chait was criticizing.
Hey, Sam, democracy sucks. I heard you're disrespecting Jimmy Dore later.
Right.
But I read that thing actually that you had sent me about the administrative closure, and we need to come up with the only thing I can think of is that they're trying to just there's a certain amount of punitive and terror aspect to this. If you say ethnically cleanse, people are going to say, well, we're not, if you're here legally, we're not doing it. But, clearly they are narrowing.
But that's not true.
They're against
that's not true
immigrants.
Either, because people with TPS were here illegally.
Right.
And so they're attacking legal avenues for fixing papers as well. One of the things that we've seen, I know I called in about this recently, but they changed the Foreign Affairs Manual to allow, if you're bringing family members from foreign countries and they're processing their papers at the consulate abroad, part of that application is what's called an affidavit of support. So somebody has to show they earn enough money to support you. The Foreign Affairs office, the officers at the consulate now are instructed that they can deny an application even if the sponsor makes enough money based on the guidelines. If there's some other sort of troubling factor, like, well, this person's old, so they're probably going to need some sort of financial help, or they're sick, and so we're starting to see, not me because I'm an amazing attorney, obviously, but other crappier lawyers are seeing cases be denied at the consulate because, yes, the sponsor makes enough money, but you're trying to bring like an old, infirmed family member to the United States.
Oh.
And so we're not going to let you do that. So, it's not like they love legal immigration either. And that goes along with seeking asylum and these other things that people are allowed to do, which are now under attack. So, anyways, it'll be interesting to see what happens, with the midterms. But it just feels like I don't know. I don't know what proposals are out there. We can't even agree on the fucking DREAM Act, which is like, it's not even low-hanging fruit. It's fruit that's rotting on the ground.
Yeah, it would be nice for the Democrats to put out actually a unified, more comprehensive plan that they run it. But it seems to me that there's some that are just afraid to even bring it up as an issue because they don't want to galvanize Donald Trump's base. So we'll see. But I appreciate the call.
Yeah. Can I clear? I want to clear up one other quick thing.
It's about the shampoo.
You should really be getting at least a 5-minute deep scalp massage.
No, I understand.
But I'll call back about that tomorrow. So the missing kids. I know this has been sort of, maybe you've talked about this. But,
I did talk about it today. I made it clear that these are, and here's the thing is that. I'm not as concerned that the Office of Refugee, the ORR, resettlement, is actually going to develop the ability to track these kids in a way that's going to be detrimental to immigrants, or certainly not going to do it based upon calls. About the concern that people are projecting about it. And I'm not terribly concerned about the conflation of these group of kids with the policy of separating families at the border if it leads to people paying more attention to these issues, frankly. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, I'm not going to promote that conflation, obviously. And, that's just not what we do here. But as far as hand-wringing about it, and I know largely in part from you, but from obviously other folks I've spoken to and reading that, Obama was bad. He wasn't as bad as this. It was a lesser of two evils type of situation. And his thing was at least part of an agenda that appeared to be, to promote things like DACA and DAPA and then, keep going down the line. But if Donald Trump's horridness brings this issue to the forefront and causes Democrats to create a plan to deal with it, a rational plan to deal with immigration, then good. I'll take that too.
Right.
So
I will say about the kids that, some people are saying not to be worried about. It's less troublesome, perhaps, I guess. But at the same time, ICE has the capacity to check in or follow up with these cases in a way that's not intrusive or overhanded, I guess. And they're not. And if you could see the ways that they waste time and the things that they actually spend their days doing, I think you would be shocked, even knowing what you know. And so it would not be hard for the government to have. I wouldn't even employ ICE officers to do this, but social workers who could, follow up on these cases. There's really no follow up, and so even if it's less concerning, like, oh, they might have just changed their phone number and most of these kids are okay, I think it does highlight, a policy failure either way. But anyhow, keep up the good work.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Later.